So to speak a little bit about the programs for Japan, you're going to be doing the first concert is a Tchaikovsky program with the violin concerto and Symphony No. 6. And the second concert is Mozart's Jupiter Symphony No. 41 and Mahler 1.
Yes.
I know you take a lot of care in designing your programs, and I read that you said you like to build a story connection between the pieces when you do construct your programs.
I mean, in the case of Tchaikovsky, I think this story is relatively obvious because a composer that we can center a program around is always really can be obvious, and in this, but I see it differently. I think it can enlighten our vision of a composer. For example, in the case of the violin concerto Tchaikovsky, this was in a very happy period. He composed that concerto, and the Pathétique was an obviously highly unhappy period. Just preceding his death. I am convinced Tchaikovsky was maybe not completely conscious of, but was feeling his death to come, and this is why the Pathétique is such a uniquely personal work and very moving and very unusual in the history of music because of this final adagio. But the violin concerto gets all the sparkle and the balletic element, which are also very important when we play Tchaikovsky. And Tchaikovsky, the lush melodies, the wonderful textures, go especially well with this orchestra and the Philadelphia sound. The other program, the Mozart Mahler, this is to me almost like the alpha and omega of music, symphonic music. We can say that Mahler was paying tribute to all the tradition of Austrian German symphonies before him, and to combine the last symphony of Mozart and the first of Mahler, I think is very interesting. It's almost to the initiator with Haydn of the legacy of the symphony in Austria, which Mozart was, influencing and the start of Mahler's own journey. I think that's fascinating, and that will also show the versatility of the orchestra.
Just to go back to Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony, I know this is a very important piece for you, and that actually listening to a recording by the Philadelphia Orchestra and Ormandy was when you really fell deeply in love with music.
Absolutely. That was part of the collection of my parents, which they had of classical music when I was a child. And when I listened to that recording, I fell in love with that piece. So I asked my parents for my very first symphonic concert to go to Montreal Symphony and hear it live. But this was because I had listened to the Ormandy Philadelphia recording. When I made my debut with the Philadelphia Orchestra in 2008, this is the piece I chose, and this is where we fell in love with each other. This is also a piece I recorded with the Rotterdam Philharmonic. It's also a piece I conducted in Japan last year with the Rotterdam Philharmonic, and I believe that now hearing it with Philadelphia would be also a very different experience.
So how do you feel when you're stepping onto the stage to conduct this piece with the orchestra that made you fall in love with music? Is it especially exciting for you?
Of course, it was. I needed almost not to think about it when I first went on the podium and thinking, oh wow, such a tradition and such a personal connection I have with this orchestra and this piece. So I chose to let them play very much and just to meet without too many words and meet just through music and through gestures and the music making. And this is why probably it connected at such a deep level, not trying to do something different for the sake of being different, which I am against when I'm a guest conductor. And we played that symphony again a few times since I became music director, but I feel now that sharing it with the rest of the world, and especially in Japan, it will still bring something very special in our own connection, and hopefully the Japanese audience will be able to relate to it and to feel it.
You said you mentioned that you had conducted it several times. Are you aware of your interpretation or your ideas changing, or is it just so gradual you don't really?
I hope my ideas are changing whenever I take a piece and conduct it many times. I think it does happen naturally. There are some works which I notice at some point I have a big change of focus at some point. For example, the Brahms symphonies, I'm conducting them very differently now than I used to 10 years ago. But in the case of Tchaikovsky Pathétique, I believe that even the first time I conducted it, which was in Montreal back in 2000, so that's, 14 years ago, that's, pretty substantial. I believe if I would listen to it again, I would find the same interpretation, just hopefully more mature. It's the same, it's like good wine, hopefully, it's still good when it's young, but hopefully it gets better with age.